While Donald Trump was telling the world the war was ending, Iranian missiles were already in the air, locked on to Tel Aviv. Welcome to Matter Alerts. I'm your anchor. And tonight, I'm taking you inside the single most contradictory, explosive, and consequential 24 hours this war has produced since the very first strike on Tehran on February 28. This is day 25. And what I'm watching right now is a war being declared over and violently escalating at the exact same moment. It began Monday morning, March 23. Trump posted on Truth Social and full block capitals, announcing that weekend talks with Iran had been so productive that he was ordering a 5-day pause on all planned strikes against Iranian power plants and energy infrastructure. Markets exploded with relief. Oil prices dropped sharply. Global stocks surged. Traders who had been pricing in an energy apocalypse suddenly began pricing in peace. At a press gaggle in Palm Beach, Trump went even further, telling reporters that Iran had agreed they would never have a nuclear weapon, that Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner had been directly involved in the talks, and declaring with full confidence, "I think they're very good. They want peace." For approximately 3 hours, the entire world held its breath. Then Tehran spoke. Iran's foreign ministry flatly denied that any dialogue with Washington had taken place, dismissing Trump's announcement entirely as a calculated attempt to manipulate global energy prices. Iran's parliament speaker posted publicly and without hesitation, "No talks with the U.S. have taken place," calling Trump's claims deliberate misinformation aimed at influencing financial markets. Let that land for a moment. The Speaker of Iran's parliament called the sitting President of the United States a liar, in public, on the record, while the war was still actively and lethally burning across the entire region. And then, as if to underline every single word of that denial with fire and steel, Iran launched missiles directly at Tel Aviv. Iranian missiles created devastating impacts across multiple areas of Tel Aviv. Major building damage. Confirmed casualties. Arriving just hours after Trump had announced the most optimistic diplomatic signal of the entire 25-day war. Israeli police confirmed officers responding to multiple scenes of fallen munitions across the city. The IDF reported impacts at several sites across central Israel with emergency services stretched simultaneously across the entire city. What I'm seeing right now is not a ceasefire. What I'm seeing is not a negotiation. What I'm seeing is a war being actively fought on the ground while being theatrically managed in the headlines. And the distance between those two realities has never been wider than it is today. The majority of missiles Iran is now firing at Israel carry cluster munitions, projectiles that release dozens of tiny bomblets across 5 to 10 miles, engineered to penetrate rooftops before detonating inside residential buildings. On one street in downtown Tel Aviv, one of those cluster bombs exploded inside an apartment building. The IDF's own international spokesman acknowledged the military's failure to intercept that specific missile, a stunning admission from the most battle-tested air defense force in the Middle East. Since the start of the joint U.S.-Israeli operation on February 28, the IDF has struck more than 3,000 Iranian targets. 3,000 targets in 25 days. That is an average of 120 strikes every single day. A tempo of destruction the modern world has almost never witnessed at this sustained pace. The IDF confirmed it struck Iranian security headquarters, weapons manufacturing sites, ballistic missile production plants, and warhead research facilities, all on the very same day Trump was publicly announcing peace to the world. Overnight strikes on Tuesday hit 2 gas facilities and a critical pipeline in Isfahan, just hours after Trump had specifically stated he was pausing all attacks on Iranian energy infrastructure. Let me be precise about what that contradiction means. Trump announced a pause. Then Israel struck. Either the pause does not include Israeli unilateral operations, or the left hand of this alliance does not fully control what the right hand is doing on the battlefield. Netanyahu addressed the Israeli nation and made his strategic position unmistakably clear. "We are pounding the missile program and the nuclear program, and we continue to deal heavy blows to Hezbollah." He added that Israel had recently eliminated 2 Iranian nuclear scientists and that more actions are expected in the coming days. That is not the language of a man preparing to sign a peace agreement. That is the language of a commander pressing his military advantage while the window remains open. There is a crucial difference between achieving war goals through an agreement and stopping the war in order to pursue an agreement. Netanyahu is describing the first. Trump appears to be announcing the second. These are not the same thing. And that gap is where the danger lives. Sources connected to the IRGC stated publicly and without ambiguity, special plans are arranged tonight for Tel Aviv and regional allies of the US and Israel, which will completely remove any hope of negotiation from the minds of the aggressors. Read that again with full attention. Iran did not just fire missiles at Tel Aviv. Iran announced in advance, publicly, that the explicit purpose of those missiles was to destroy any remaining belief that negotiation was possible. This is deliberate. This is coldly strategic. Iran is sending a message not just to Israel but to every Gulf state, every NATO partner, and every financial market on earth currently pricing in the possibility of peace. Iran also formally called Trump a deceitful American president, a direct military-level condemnation of a sitting American head of state that has no modern precedent in the history of this region. The language of this war has escalated as fast and as dangerously as the missiles themselves. Behind every geopolitical headline, real human beings are paying an unbearable price. UNICEF confirmed more than 2,100 children have been killed or injured across the Middle East since February 28, 206 in Iran. 118 in Lebanon. 4 in Israel. 1 in Kuwait. Iran's emergency services chief confirmed 208 children killed inside Iran, 168 of them from a single U.S. missile strike on a girls' elementary school in Minab City on the very first day of the war. Rights groups are now formally calling for that attack to be investigated as a war crime. More than 1,500 civilians confirmed killed inside Iran, with that number climbing every hour as rescue teams continue clearing rubble. These are not statistics on a slide. They are the real and devastating human cost beneath the geopolitical chess game being played out in truth social posts and televised speeches. Iran's foreign minister has held emergency calls with the foreign ministers of Egypt, Pakistan, and Oman, signaling that a diplomatic channel is at least partially open through trusted regional intermediaries. But here is the critical detail. Iran is willing to talk to Oman. Iran is willing to engage Egypt. Iran is flatly and publicly refusing to acknowledge talking directly to the United States. That gap between back-channel openings and front-door denial is precisely where wars either transform into historic agreements or detonate into full-scale catastrophic escalation. Right now that gap is wider than it has ever been. When Trump announced the 5-day pause, oil prices dropped and markets surged instantly. That reaction tells you exactly how much of the current oil price premium is being driven by war risk versus actual supply disruption. But here is what the markets have not yet fully priced in. Iran's public rejection of any talks means the 5-day window is not a credible path to peace. It is a countdown clock ticking toward a moment of decision that could reshape the global energy landscape permanently. A U.S. official confirmed direct talks would likely take place within the 5-day window but cautioned with notable restraint that nothing is final. Nothing is confirmed, and nothing is agreed. In 5 days, if those talks have not produced verifiable progress, Trump's stated threat to obliterate Iranian power plants returns to the operational table with full military force behind it. The IEA has formally stated this energy crisis is structurally worse than the oil shocks of the 1970s. Goldman Sachs has publicly warned that elevated oil prices could persist through 2027 regardless of how this specific phase resolves. Kuwait confirmed its air defense systems were actively engaged intercepting Iranian missiles and drones on Tuesday morning. Bahrain confirmed emergency responders extinguished a fire at a major industrial facility as a direct result of Iranian attacks overnight. The Gulf is not a spectator in this conflict. It is a battlefield unfolding in slow motion, with every intercepted missile representing a near-miss catastrophe for some of the world's most energy-critical infrastructure. Europe is watching. The global south is watching. China is watching. Russia is watching. And every nation on earth that depends on Middle Eastern energy is watching this 5-day window with a level of anxiety that no financial instrument can fully capture or contain. What I'm seeing today is a war operating at maximum psychological complexity, a conflict where the information battlefield is as dangerous as the physical one. Trump declared peace. Iran fired missiles. Netanyahu said strikes are continuing. Markets rallied then hesitated in confusion. Diplomats are calling Oman while IRGC commanders are targeting Tel Aviv apartment blocks with cluster munitions. Together these form the precise and terrifying portrait of a conflict desperately searching for an exit it has not yet found. The 5-day clock Trump set in motion is running right now. Every minute. Every hour. Bringing the world either closer to a framework for ending this war or closer to a strike on Iranian power infrastructure that would trigger a humanitarian and economic crisis of historic proportions. 2,100 children killed or wounded. 3,000 Iranian targets struck. Missiles over Tel Aviv on the same morning peace was declared to the world. Underwater mines in the Strait of Hormuz confirmed by the CIA, oil at $114 a barrel. Global markets swinging violently on a single Truth Social post from a president whose peace announcement was rejected within 3 hours. This is not winding down. This is a war that has entered its most diplomatically dangerous and militarily unpredictable phase at the exact same time. And the world has never been less certain about what comes next. I'm your anchor. This is Matter Alerts. And we will be here every hour, every strike, every statement, every market move, every human consequence, until this world finds the path back from the edge it is standing on right now. Stay informed. Stay alert. The next 5 days will define the next 5 years.